Here we're looking at the sampling of sorbent tubes, looking at the calibration and setting up a basic sampling train. Now our sorbent tubes come in these nice little glass cylinders. You find some of this short variety, some of a bit of a longer design, and there are even some that are a little bit wider. Some of the most common ones you'll use, however, are 22601 with activated charcoal inside, this one here, and that will get you for a lot of your sampling needs. Now, to start this off, we're going to have to set up our pump and then connect this into our tubing on the pump. So, take our sampling tube, which has this nice flexible black bit there, which will connect on. Now, do make sure if your one, it's not got too much length on it and it just flops over like that, because that can cut off the flow and impede your results. So don't be afraid to just snip a little bit off the end if there's too much flex there. And then you can just push it all the way down, and that's much more secure, much less likely to make any interferences, but still with flex to go as it needs. And this then has the tube that goes round, and then we get to the end of the tube which has got a regulator on it. This will be important in a moment. Into that we're going to put our sorbent tube, but before we can do that, as you may have noticed, our glass cylinder is completely sealed when it arrives to us, so we're going to have to break off both ends. We just use our little glass breaker, just a nice smooth sideways motion, snap it off. Both sides are now snapped off and the glass is safely away in the glass breaker. We can now take this and put it in. Now you know which way you're going to put it in because most of them are going to have a little arrow directing the way of your airflow going in. So the arrow pointing down saying this side is the inlet. So always check for that, though you'll often find that where that big gap is where you'll be your inlet side. But always check that arrow first. Okay, that just gets pushed in, that's nice and secure, and we're now ready to calibrate it. So we'll take our flow meter that has been calibrated itself to a master flow meter, and then we just insert that on. Don't have to go too far, but now that's nice and secure. And then we're going to turn this on and use a small screwdriver to adjust the flow rate of the pump and to adjust the flow with the regulator at the end here. You don't want the pump to be going too hard and have it really restricted down here, because then you're just wasting a lot of energy, and you find that this makes a lot of noise, which makes a lot of staff rather annoyed if you're in a quieter area. But conversely, you don't want this to be wide open and this going so low that the bead just jumps up and down and it's not getting a proper flow. Now we're going to aim for 0.2 litres per minute. That is the average, that is what you're going to want to try and get for most of your sorbent tubes. There might be a few that are slightly dissimilar depending on what you're aiming for, but 0.2 litres per minute is what you'll generally need. So we just turn it on and see where our bead rises up, and then we're going to adjust first with our pump, turning to the clockwise to increase and anti-clockwise to decrease. You see I've just gone slightly over so I can then demonstrate. It's gone quite loud. If I just, there we go. You can quite easily alter that with this one as well. And I could in fact reduce that down a bit, but tighten up the loosen up the regulator, and we get the same flow, but you can already hear this is putting through a lot less effort. So hit that happy medium, and that is now calibrated and ready to go. So we just remove it from our flow meter, and then we have these special end caps which just screw on the end, and now this can be positioned as per any sampling pump. You put the pump on the side of the belt and then take the tubing round the back, and this sits in the breathing zone. You want to try and make sure that the tube is in a vertical position, because if it's in a horizontal position it can cause some channeling in the media. So you want to try and aim for a vertical position, either way up that fits most comfortably and most easily on your person. Once you're done with the job, you come back, unscrew it off, carefully take this out, trying not to break it, it has happened on occasion, and then you take two little red caps, put them on each end to seal it, put that inside a bag which you can then label up, and that's ready to go for sampling. I forgot to say, before sealing it up and sending it off for sampling, of course you should recalibrate it against your flow meter to make sure it's still going at the same rate as when you started. If there is too much of a difference, then there could be an issue with your results. When sampling for many hazardous substances at once, we may end up wanting to use a splitter. These just use one single tube to go to one pump, but allows you to do several at once. We're going to have a double head splitter like this, or they go to 3 or 4 in size. They work very much the same as your normal sample train, but it just is a slightly more complicated or fiddly section when you're doing your initial calibration. You put both of your sorbent tubes in, and you use your screwdriver to just adjust each individual regulator to the correct flow, using your flow meter on one, and then attach it to the other one, and again adjust it to your correct rate. Once you've done this on both, you're then going to have to go back to your first one, because of course, having changed the flow of air that's allowed through this one, as it's all connected up to the same flow, it's going to have slightly altered your first one. So you'll have to readjust the regulator here, and then I'd go back to this one, to your other one, and again just double check that that is going at the right flow rate. Keep doing that a few times until you've got it right for both of them. If you happen to be doing sampling where you've got more heads than you need and you have a spare head, then all you have to do is you take your screwdriver, you tighten up your regulator as much as you can, making it closed, but then to really make sure that no airflow is being pulled through the tubing, you take a spare sorbent tube which is still sealed, and you attach it on there, thereby plugging up the gap as well as having a nice tight. And with that, you will just be getting the flow through the remaining ones.